So the Soccer World Cup is all the hype at the moment, and I thought what better time to create an artwork based on that. I'm going to be airbrushing a soccer ball within some real fire. Let's get into it right now. So you can see I've got some copy paper here with my artwork printed. Now this reference is from Canva, and I've made 2 copies. So using this art knife, I'm going to cut some paper templates which will be used to establish my design. Now with the first printout, what I want to do is cut around the shape of the football. You can use a knife that has a blade that spins around to making cutting circles easier. However, I'm pretty confident with doing this. Plus, I'm going to be adding the fire, so if there's any areas that I don't like, I can turn them into little bits of burnt football. So here we have stencil number 1. And now with the next piece, I want to cut out these black sections. Deliberately letting that blade move a little bit, give it a bit of bounce just to put some texture in there so it's not just a straight line, because you can see you've got these divots from where the stitching's happening. So now you should have those 2 paper templates. I'm going to be working on this A3 canvas that I've already painted black. I'm going to start off with this negative stencil. And what I'm going to do using a bit of spray adhesive, just going to lightly spray the back. It's not going to permanently fix it to the surface, but it'll help to stop it from moving a little bit. Position it where you want the ball to be. I'm going to have it up in this corner and press it down. Again, if I get a bit of underspray coming through the stencil, I can always use black to fix that up or hide it with some fire. This area is more important to keep clean because the fire is going to be running down that way, and that seems to have stuck fairly well. Now I want to mask up around the rest of the canvas so I don't get any extra overspray. And just using some copy paper with the masking tape stuck over the top half of it, it's going to mask around the edge and run some tape along this top edge as well. Overspray will travel, so the more time you spend masking, the better. Now adding in some white, you can see there's a bit of reducer already in my gun. Pop the lid back on, then I put my finger over this, give it a shake, blast it out a couple of times, and now working down on the surface, I'm just going to build up a bit of a flat tone. Just go nice and light, try not to build it too heavy, let the paint dry as you spray it on. The air will help to dry it. You can see the paper starting to pinch up a little bit, so just let that dry off, or get a hairdryer or a heat gun. So you want to get it to a nice flat tone like that. Now using your other template and some black, I've already got some in the airbrush from when I based up the canvas. Line this up. It's printed in the same spot, so I can pretty much just line up the edges of the paper. If you want to check, just flick it up and down like that, and that'll help to line everything up. When you're happy with the position, grab a bit of masking tape, tape off the edges just so it doesn't move, and then spray the gaps of the stencil. One thing I probably should have done, which I just realized, is I didn't spray adhesive on this one, so I'm going to have to use my fingers to keep it in place. Lucky I've got this air control on the Eclipse. I'm just going to turn down the flow of air. That way there's less chance for the air to lift up the paper stencil, and I can hopefully minimize some of that overspray. Okay, now I'm just going to remove the mask. You can see it's not perfect. I've got some underspray all through here. Not worried about this section, but I'm going to need to clean that up. So a couple of ways you can fix the overspray. You could use masking tape and just curve it around, but I'm just going to use a freehand template. So this is my fire tool template. I'm just going to line that up with the edge, and using my black, I'll just spray out that overspray. And that's going to give me a nice crisp edge. Can also fix up little sections like this here where it looks like it's a bit uneven, so I'll just run that curve across like that, delete that. Better. See, that shape actually fits pretty much to that whole section there where the overspray is. You can see I've got a nice clean edge now. I'm just going to fix up this little one here. And even though this bottom section will probably have fire licks coming off it, I'll do this as well just to be safe. These ones along here, not going to worry about. So what I want to do now using red is establish the first layer of fire. And first and foremost, I just want to freehand it. I'm just doing some sketching with my airbrush. You can fog some of the bits in as well. And then using the template to create some sharper edges. But this is the underpainting, so you're not going to see a lot of it when I'm finished. This is just pretty much showing me where I'm going to be going with my fire. I want to run it all off this back section of the ball. Now you can see that first layer. I'm going to use that red as well. I'm just going to dust this section of the ball. Just going to use a pre-mixed light grey. You can use any light grey, that'll work. Just mix it up, white with black. So add your white in first and then drops of black. Be careful not to put in too much black. I'm just going to use this in between the sections of the ball. Now this will opaque. And that's way too light. So to darken it up, just add in a drop of black. It should be enough for this size colour cup. Much better. And if you're not confident doing it freehand, by all means use a bit of masking tape, or even sketch a line across before you do it, just so you've got something to follow. Don't worry if you get a bit of overspray on the black sections, they can be easily fixed. The black will just opaque over the top. Now using white, I'm going to build another layer of fire. Again using the stencil, this time ignoring the base layer. So you want to just create a new layer entirely. You can see I'm using that template, spraying against the edge of it to create a sharper, more defined edge, and then freehanding from there. And then you can just come back in and brighten up certain areas. Wherever you build that white, you're going to get a brighter tone on top. So if you want the orange or the yellow to be a bit brighter, then you need to create these, what I call hot spots. So just heavier, brighter sections. And these should be closest to your object. See, I'm also working back onto the ball quite a bit because I want a lot of that ball within fire. And you can see when you do the tails, so you can see how these two sections are fairly bright, and then here it tapers off and it's almost becoming really transparent. And you also deliberately don't want to finish everything, so you don't want to join everything up. Your eye will actually finish off some of the design if you have little gaps in it, and that's going to give it a more realistic appearance as well. So now you can see after completing that second layer, which is the white, we're starting to get a bit more of that 3D look within the soccer ball, and it really looks like some fire is coming off the back of that soccer ball now. Okay, so I'm going to use a transparent orange now. So this is transparent base mixed with orange. If you've already got an existing transparent color, then you can go ahead and use those. If you want to see how I actually mixed up these tones, then you can go to our simple real fire video. I'll link up to that in the description below, as well as to some of the products that I'm using within this video. And with the orange, I'm going to spray over all of that white that I've just laid down with that layer of fire. You might need a few coats, so just gradually build it up. However, it should be transparent enough so that it doesn't eliminate the previous tone. And don't panic if it's starting to look horrible at this stage. You can see it's not looking great yet. Fire always looks a bit messy at this stage until you finish off and get through all the tones. So just persist with it. Bring in a bit more of a highlight in some of these areas here too, just so that it appears as though we're getting a bit of that glow from the flames on the soccer ball. So not as bright or as heavy as this section here. But I do want it to appear like it's fully engulfed within that fire, mainly just that top section exposed. Okay, so going to go back over it now with some white, do another layer. Just had to thin out my white a little bit, just tip drying, so if it does run too thick and you're not getting a nice flow, then just add a bit of reducer in your cup and that'll thin it for you. Reducer or thinner, whatever paint you're using. Create some brighter sections within this part of the fire. So not only brightening that up with the white, but also brightening up any of those strokes, those sharper, more defined edges. And doing that mainly freehand, not necessarily with the stencil. As you can see, it's a real mix of freehand and template work. Now what I want to do is on the ball here, make it appear a bit more three-dimensional, start getting a few highlights in there as well, just on those edges, just to help give that illusion of 3D. And I'll blend that down as well. You can see how quickly that's transforming it, making the stitched area there between the panels look more three-dimensional. And you'll notice as well that it's not showing up as well on these areas here where it is brighter white. So any areas where there's a bit of the overspray from the glow from the fire, that highlight is showing up a lot better and a lot brighter. I'm going to run a few little highlights on the black panels as well, just to show that our light source is up the top. You can see how just little things like adding that white, how much it's changed the look of it and made it look a lot more three-dimensional. Now using the transparent yellow, so same thing with this, transparent base mixed with yellow, and add your desired reducer or thinner. Okay, so I've switched to my Takumi Eclipse to do some final white highlights on the fire, but I also am going to use it now to do some stitches between the panels on the soccer ball. So you can see I've run some stitching along here. They're just like a small little stroke. So just using that white really carefully and putting them in. Just takes a little bit of time, nothing too difficult. It's just a little line that goes across. So this section here, I thought I'd better put that in. I could still work back over the top, but it might be nice to actually have this in there. And then you can see it through the fire, make it look a bit more realistic. Now using a sepia brown, I'm going to add in some burn marks. I'm going to use this Art Tool texture template to do that. Don't want to go too crazy, but I just want to get a bit of that detail in here. Just around where some of that fire is coming off the football. And then again, some of that freehand to bring it all together. So I'm going up close to pull in a bit more texture and work some of that sepia back into the fire. And then further away, like this, just to dust it in. Now using that white, I want to be a bit more definite with my highlights. So I want to follow my flame that I've already got now. I don't want to establish a whole new layer. I'm just going to carefully brighten up what I've got. And just be a little bit more intentional with it. So just find the right shape that'll fit within the lick that you're working on. Up close to get some brighter highlights in there. Just where that fire is starting and coming off the soccer ball. I'm going to use some black now just to clean up the edges and finish off some of the detailing within the soccer ball. Got a little bit of overspray over here, so I'll use this now to give that a clean, to get that nice sharp edge again. Get rid of some of this overspray around the fire. And then to make it not look as sharp around the edge, I'll bring some of that black into the shape of the fire and create essentially a bit of a shadow. And now it doesn't just look like I've traced around the edge of it. It looks like it's a bit more deliberate and almost like a flame lick pushed into the background. Do the same thing here. Anything that you don't like I don't particularly like this section here, moving up and over, I'll just erase that. Just remember this is black, so do this very carefully. It's not very forgiving. If you go over the wrong section, it'll be gone. So just take your time, keep stepping back from your artwork so you get a better visual of how it's all going and how the shapes and shadows and highlights look. Now just cleaning up these sections here where there's a bit of overspray. Texturing back so that the highlight looks like it's sitting on top of leather. Also not too worried if I get a bit of overspray on the stitching. Just going to soften it a little bit. A little bit of that black within the fire, not a lot, just a little bit to create some of those layers. Okay, so I'd prefer it not to be as yellow. That's my preference for the fire. So I'm going to use some more transparent orange. I'm just going to hit the edges of some of these just so it blends a bit more from that white into the yellow and then back into that reddy orange. So I'll start off on the edges and just let my overspray travel up onto the fire. But I'm going to keep these sections here a little bit brighter. Don't really like this bit here, so I'm going to eliminate that with the black. Even though I don't really like too much yellow, I think actually this one will need now a little bit more yellow. So after toning it down with the orange, I'm just going to come back, add a bit of yellow in certain areas. So you can just keep tweaking it whichever way you like. Just going to go very, very carefully. And just brighten up some of these spots here. And switching back to orange, just soften that again. So it's a lot of back and forth. Just keep tweaking it until you're happy with the way it looks. Even though I'm much happier now that that orange is in there, I'm going to use some Createx Illustration Colors Scarlet, and this is a completely transparent color. Before I do the Scarlet, I'm not entirely happy with this flame lick here, so I'm going to use this white and just establish a bit more of a lick coming down here. But I'm going to just tone it with the red. Now using that Scarlet, work back over this. Need a few coats to really build it up. I'm happy with that with the Scarlet, but I'm still not 100%, so I'm going to do one more flame lick using the white. Hopefully this will blend it all together. You can see flames don't always work 100%. I've done so many of them, but sometimes you're just not 100% happy with it. So at least this will show you how to keep going. And use a layer to rescue what you've done. Go back over some of these highlights as well while I've got the white. Back in with the transparent yellow. This will also tint that Scarlet. Bit of transparent orange, and this should now blend it all back together. So to fast track your learning, you can definitely check out our online airbrushing course at airbrushassylum.thinkific.com, or you can continue to watch some of the other videos that I've got listed here. And until next time, go grab your airbrush, do some amazing artwork yourself, and I'll see you again very, very soon in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.